Ladies and gentlemen, coffee break is over, and we'll start with the second part of our conference. On the agenda is the referat of Professor Gerd Meyer from Tübingen, Powerlessness and Social Change. After referat, I suggest a discussion. How minutes you want?
Well, 40 minutes.
40 minutes referat, and after 40 minutes of the referat, discussion to this thesis. Thank you. Ja?
Ein kleines bisschen mehr schließen, aber nicht ganz. So ist gut, alles gut. Nein, nein, nicht ganz. Das reicht. Okay.
Please.
The subject of my lecture is Power, Powerlessness, and Social Change, and the undertitle is Psychological Aspects of Micropolitics. Let me start by an African proverb. Many ordinary people in many small places who do many little steps can change the face of the world. These lines remind us of our own strengths and the chances of gradual change. They address the subjective perception of power structures and the chances of many individuals to overcome their feeling of powerlessness. So citizens are not only objects, but also subjects of social power. In their social relations, they are carriers of power. They establish and legitimize power, whether actors or spectators. In my lecture, I will deal with the acting subjects, the inner dynamics of how citizens relate to power and powerlessness, and their influence to change social relations in everyday life. Or more general, I would look at the subjective side of power relations, aiming at an applied and practical psychology of micropolitics. To achieve personal strength and social change, following humane and democratic values, we need a realistic analysis of the formal and informal mechanisms of power or rule, and how they are exercised in politics, economy, and society. I try to avoid illusions, as well as a view that unduly psychologizes the reality of power relations in politics and society and the chances for change. This applies both to capitalist democracies in the West and to semi-democratic or authoritarian systems that not only exist on the territory of the former Soviet Union. In Central and Eastern Europe, an array of chances for the democratization of politics and society unfolded after 1990. At the same time, we feel the impact of traditions and of an education aiming to subordinate, as well as the persistence of power structures, mentalities, and patterns of behavior which were dominant in the period of bureaucratic socialism. The overwhelming power of elites finds its counterpart in widespread feelings of powerlessness with the citizens. A vast majority lacks the experience and the resources, the motivation and the belief that they can change something in society by their own efforts, individually or as an organized group. Under more or less authoritarian conditions, it's particularly difficult to become aware of your own strength, to speak out or to utter criticism in public, or to believe in the power of self-organized activities at the grassroots level. Another factor creates even stronger obstacles. Most citizens in post-communist countries, but also in others, have to invest nearly all their energy in the battle to survive, or at least in keeping a modest standard of living and to improve it slowly over the years. All these contexts and objective conditions, differing from one country to another, are taken into account if we now turn to two central questions of a psychology of power. What makes us powerless and what makes us strong? What makes us powerless, what makes us strong? According to Max Weber, in a social relationship, power is the chance to impose one's will on others, even against resistance. No matter what this chance is based upon. I just repeated, in a social relationship, power is the chance to impose one's own will on others, even against resistance, no matter what this chance is based upon. Here, power is understood as a chance or as a potential. And Weber conceives power as control of others. My will can be imposed, even against the other's will. In a more systematic approach, and for analytical purposes, power can be first looked as individual power and strength within myself, taken as such and grounded in my person, without any relations to others. Then, in a second step, we may look at power in relation to others. Power and powerlessness actually develop and prove themselves in relation to other people in certain social contexts, places, and roles. Power is not a substance, but should be understood as a process and a product of personal and non-personal relations. And finally, in the third analytical step, power can be analyzed as organized social or political power. For example, the distribution and reproduction of power within groups and organizations. Power conflicts between different actors in a political order. Thus, social power is constituted in an interactive way on three systemic levels. The micro level of individuals, families, and other primary face-to-face groups. Second, the middle or meso level of functional groups and organizations. And finally, the macro level of the nation, the political system, and in international relations. Here, we will concentrate our analysis on the micro level and the way we shape our social relations at the micro and meso level will be called micropolitics. In his definition, Weber emphasizes the character of power as control of and over others, if necessary, directed against others. Yet in everyday life and in a democratic perspective, I think it's even more important how to gain strength or power together with others, and as a potential to do something for others. Of course, the use of power implies the possibility to get your way, if necessary, in conflict with others. But if we only analyze and develop vertical strategies of dominance and subordination or adaptation, we neglect the aspect of consensus, of democratic bargaining, of horizontal cooperation.